Hello everyone, welcome back to the course. Today in this video, we will be learning about how to create a simple decentralized application. We will be writing smart contract for this decentralized application. It is a simple D app which takes the input from the front end and stores it into the blockchain. In this video, we will write the smart contract code using Solidity. We will compile it in Remix IDE, we will deploy it, and we will make the front end part of the D app and we will put this two together. Well, you guys might be wondering, how do we connect this front part and the back part together? Well, in a normal application, we will be using JavaScript, JDBC, like that. Here we will be using library of JavaScript, which is Web3. So for front end, we will be using a simple CSS for styling, hypertext markup language for writing the front end part. Now for interacting with blockchain, like I said, we will be using Web3 library of JavaScript, which is important. This is the main component which connects the backend being the blockchain to the front end of our decentralized application. Now, in our simple D app, we will be using Ethereum network. Here in our D app, we will be storing the values of a simple string on blockchain, that is Ethereum's network, and we will retrieve that value from blockchain using our front end of the app. Now, we will be opening the Remix IDE to write the smart contract, and once we finish the smart contract writing, we will compile it and deploy it onto the Ethereum's blockchain. Now, once that is done, we'll hop on to the front end part. Now, as you can see on the screen, it is Remix IDE. By far, this is one of the greatest powerful IDE I have ever seen. Now, I'll be creating a simple contract with the name helloing.sol. .sol stands for Solidity. Now, the first line which I wrote is important because we always need to specify what version of Solidity we will be using. So here, I'm using 0.4.18, which you all will be using too. Now I'll create a simple getter and setter function. The setter function will set the value of the string. For now, we will be creating only these two. Now here, Java, which is object-oriented programming language, Solidity is contract-oriented programming language. Here I created a setter function with the name setEntry. Now I'm creating a string with the name entry. Now this setter function, it only does one thing. It sets the value of the string entry, the variable entry. Now once the setter function is created now, I'll be creating the getter function. Well now, in case you know how to create a simple function in Java, you all will be able to understand this part of the function very clearly. I created a simple function, a setter function, which takes the input string value, and this value is set to the variable entry. You guys know Java, right? Well, now let's hop on to the next function, which is the getter function. Now, what does this function do? Yeah, it returns the variable entry. Every time when you set it, the variable changes and you get that value. I will be compiling this using the environment JVM, which is present in the Remix IDE. There are two tabs which are important on the top right corner. One is the compile and the another one is the run. Currently, we are now on the compile tab where we can hit the start to compile our contract. Once you see the green box on the right, which says your contract name, then you're all set. You don't have any errors and your contract is compiled, and that is start to compile. Now you have to go to the run tab and hit on deploy. You can choose the contract which to deploy, and the environment is Web3 provider. Here's a little thing you need to remember. Since we are using custom Web3, you need to have your Ganache up and running. In case if you don't have it, you can search for Google, you can download the Ganache, and once it is up and running, the default port for Ganache is 7545, and you can change that using the environment over here in the top right. Once that is done, all you need to do is deploy your contract, and you can check it in the Ganache whether the contract has been actually deployed or not. You can also see at the bottom that the contract has been deployed. There's a green tick at the beginning of the information. Well, now you have successfully compiled and deployed your contract. Like I said before, the environment which you need to take care of since you're using Ganache, and the contract which is deployed, you can see it here, and you can see the two set entry and get entry functions. Now let's hop on to our front end code. Well, for most of you guys, you know what a front end mostly consists of: a simple page. Well, for our DApp, we will be having a simple page which has a button, two text boxes for, having our two functionality values outputted or input from that. Now, this first div, the input with the ID writing, it is for giving the input value to our string variable, which is set entry, correct? And the one which is right below it is the button which is used to invoke the function, that is correct, set entry. And once that is done, there's one more button which is just to get the value of the variable string entry. You don't need a text box for that, right? So I just created a simple button without any text box. You can do the same too. Now let's hop on to the JavaScript. Now for you guys to get the Web3, we need to write this line which is very important. We need to initialize the Web3, and this is the line for it. Web3 equal to new Web3, and in the brackets new Web3.providers and the port, the local host with the port which is 7545. Like I said before, the default port for Ganache is 7545, from which we are getting the Web3. Now once we got the Web3 initialized, below that we're creating an instance of our contract. Now comes the topic ABI. ABI is important because it consists of the functions and the input parameters and the output parameters of the function. It has all those important aspects of the functions which we created in our contract. So ABI tells our front end, our DApp, that what all functions are present in the contract, which functions we can invoke. Now we can put the ABI in the bracket which I have highlighted. Now you guys may wonder, where do we get the ABI? Well, you don't have to worry. I'm going to explain you shortly. You can get the ABI from our remix.ide in the compile tab. As you can see here, the ABI button, once you click it, it allows you to copy the ABI of a contract. And now all you need to do is paste it in the highlighted area once copied. Now let's talk about the functions. Well, of course, every front-end part, when we click a button, a function should be invoked, right? So in these functions, in our DApp JavaScript functions, we need to use asynchronous functions. All you need to do is put async in front of the function keyword, and inside that function, like here, we are invoking the set entry function of our contract. So in front of our function, we're going to use await. Remember one thing here. Let me talk about the keywords here, which we use primarily. Await followed by the contract instance. The keyword exhi is the contract instance, and followed by the actual function in the contract. Now I opened Ganache here just to show you the contract. Now this is our front end, how it looks like. It has a simple text box and a box for us to show the value. Now I'm giving the input value Harsha as the value of the string variable, and I'm setting it. As you can see, this is the transaction hash which we got after setting the variable value to Harsha. Now let's try to get this value. But before that, let's see the transaction in Ganache. So as you can see here, this is the transaction. Now let's get the value of the variable which we set it to Harsha. The button getIt has the function for retrieving the value of the string. And there it is. You can see the value. Now this is a simple decentralized application which we created now. I will be discussing about it more in detail and how to create a different, new, even more sophisticated DApp in the coming sections. In our next video, I will be explaining about transactions. We will be learning about what is mining in transaction, what is a consensus mechanism, the public and private keys, how to sign a transaction with your private key, and many more.